Hi there, welcome. I'm Bob Thompson, and I'd like to welcome you to our Philanthropic Planner program. We're in about our 29th year. No, Karen says 8th or 9th, so I'll stick with 8th or 9th. Philanthropic Planner, designed for you and me as philanthropists, wannabe philanthropists, volunteers. You can be a philanthropist in a lot of different ways, but designed for you and me and for our professional advisors, attorneys, accountants, life insurance professionals, planners, trust officers, you name it. Everybody is an advisor in this area, but they make fun of me because they check in only between commercials and baseball games, basketball games, football games, and so on, just to check and see if I'm telling the truth. So if you're one of the planners, you better get back because it's the second quarter of the game. Reason for the philanthropic planning program. We want to cut through and avoid legalese as much as we can. We want to simplify the complexity. We want to talk about a boring subject, philanthropy, and it can be boring. Nobody wants to talk about it. Parents with children? No, forget that. Grandparents? Forget that. Colleagues? We just don't talk about philanthropy. But the importance of philanthropy to our local community, to the state and region, nationally, internationally, is very important. And it's important to the economy. It's important to the nonprofits that we serve. It's important because we're under the crunch now. And for the last 2 or 3 years, we've been talking about increased demand for services, but fewer and fewer dollars. When we talk about simplifying the complexity, we're into language barriers sometimes because we talk about social capital. We talk about capacity. Do I have the capacity to make a gift? Or am I concerned about outliving my money? So a lot of reasons to have the philanthropic program. We appreciate you tuning in, and we hope you come back in between commercials with those games. We usually talk about local, state, national, international, and this program's no exception. Since we visited with you last, we had a terrible typhoon in the Philippines, and a number of people have been nice enough to just email me or give me a call. And the last figure we had, we were approaching $5,000 of those that came back and said, hey, I just sent $100 to AmeriCares or Red Cross or what have you. Terrible tragedy out there in the Philippines. We keep hearing more and more about it, but entire towns devastated, pretty bad situation. We always have these natural disasters that we are concerned with, and just a few days ago we had another one here in the Midwest where multiple tornadoes hit a lot in Illinois and Michigan and so on, and a number of people killed. But tens of thousands of homes and farms and so on devastated, just flattened. It almost looked like some of the areas of the Philippines there with some of the pictures that I saw. So we look at that and we say there is a need, and as we approach the holidays, Thanksgiving coming up, we certainly are mindful of sharing and giving back. And while we're talking about local, this is going to be a little bit late for you viewing this, but it's something we've talked about over the years about Jack Bannon and the turkey trot. And Jack, we're going to miss him. Jack died this last July. And like I say, for years and years and years, Jack had a passion to raise food, and in particular turkeys on Thanksgiving. And this year's goal is 3,000 turkeys and about 25,000 pounds of non-perishables. So when it comes around and you think about Jack, even after the date, you might send in a check to Bannon's Memorial Turkey Trot. I'll cut short some of Bob's BS that I usually get carried away. We don't have a lot of props today, and Karen's not making fun of me. Well, she is behind the wall there. But today we have a guest. We're honored to have Kelly M. Brant. Director of Development of the Getty College of Arts and Sciences at Ohio Northern University. Did I get that right?
You got it.
Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you.
This is a very, very brave woman, because I was first introduced to Kelly via email a couple days ago. She said she was going to be in New England and Connecticut in particular, and she'd like to stop by and introduce herself. And I said, ooh, a possible guest to our TV program. And Karen, thank you, Karen, again. I usually change my time, my dates and everything, but Karen accommodated us because Kelly is here. Kelly, tell me a little bit about, you're at Ohio Northern.
Yes.
You're in development.
I am.
How did you get into development?
Well, I started out when I was in my undergrad at Kent State University.
Kent State, that's a
Yes.
state school.
It is a state school. Yes, it is. And I started working in our phone-a-thon when I was a freshman.
Okay.
And I stuck with it until I was a senior and I graduated and went off to pursue a professional career in fundraising.
Good for you. Good for you.
Thank you.
Good experience?
Wonderful experience.
Yeah.
Loved it.
So how long you were in a part of development while you were still at Kent State, or?
Mainly I was within the Office of Annual Giving.
Okay.
Doing phone-a-thon.
Good.
Once I graduated, I started my professional career out at Purdue University. And I ran their phone-a-thon for a couple years, and then returned to Kent State to continue my profession in annual giving, but on the direct mail side of things.
Okay.
So I worked there for about 4 years and then came out to Ohio Northern.
How long have you been at Northern then?
3 years.
3 years.
Just over 3 years.
Okay, out in the cornfields of Ohio.
The cornfields of Ada, Ohio,
Okay.
yes.
There are a lot of areas of development. Now, how many are in the development department at Ohio Northern?
Well, we have 2 full-time staff members in our annual fund, so they reach out to the masses. And then we have directors of development for each one of our 5 colleges.
Okay.
Then we have folks that support us, prospect management, research, as well as data advancement services. So I would say there is probably between 12 and 15 people that help to
Lean and
together.
mean. That's a small development
It is.
department for a school. Tell us, how many students at Ohio Northern?
There's about 3,200,
5 colleges.
5 colleges,
Okay.
yes.
And this is time for commercial. We usually don't have commercials, but if you have a son or daughter or a grandchild or a niece or nephew, you might have them take a look at Ohio Northern. It's between Columbus, Toledo, and Dayton. Easy to get to and flying in. And I have a bias. I got my undergrad and law degree at Ohio Northern, so I'm familiar with it, and Kelly has to put up with me, but and some of my friends. But a great pharmacy school, known throughout the country, a great law school, a great engineering school, business school, and arts and science. Did I hit
Correct.
them all?
You got them.
Okay.
Good job.
Commercial, I'll send you some money, Karen, excuse me, for the commercial. I told you it'd be a little bit crazy. Okay, for the last 2 or 3 years in the Chronicle of Philanthropy, which I start off with every program, Kelly, we talk about how endowments, because of the economy, endowments going down, the economy, gifting in general, and we are now, with some exceptions, now we're getting back to the peak, which was supposed to be 2007. Philanthropy last year, I'm told, about 315 billion, and that 2007 mark was 340 billion or something like that. What's your experience in giving today? What are your donors concerned with? What are major concerns?
Well, you know, we see in the annual fund now that for the past few years, we see an increase in dollars, but we don't see an increase in our donors, unfortunately.
Now this is annual. Explain annual fund. This is a part of the telethon.
Yes, the
process.
annual fund reaches out to the masses. So
Okay.
they reach out to all 30,000 ONU alums, whether it's via phone, email, direct mail, or maybe at a leadership annual giving level where it's face-to-face. And so primarily it's most cost-effective for Phonathon.
Students get involved?
Students
like
do.
You did when you were at Kent? Okay.
Yes, and at Ohio Northern we have a 13-student call station where they phone alums like yourself and talk to them about what's going on campus, keep them engaged, and then talk to them about the Northern Fund, which is our unrestricted fund on campus.
Okay. Now, how does it compare, let's say, this year versus previous year, 2012, 11, and 10, and so on?
This year so far, from what I've heard from our annual fund folks, is that it's off to a pretty good start. The fall mailing, for example, has surpassed last year's mailing, which is fantastic. That's one of our biggest mailings every year. And then we're soon going to be dropping our calendar year-end giving mailer, which is another one of our big ones for the year, for year-end giving.
Now, Northern just came off of a major campaign, over 110 million?
Our goal was 100 million, and we were able to raise over 110 million.
Okay. So when we talk about development, we talk about the different departments, segments and development. We have the annual fund.
Correct.
We have major campaigns where that's to build the endowments. Okay. We have capital campaigns that are to build buildings and that
bricks
type
and
of
mortar.
thing. Okay. We have planned giving.
Yes.
Okay. What am I missing now? Is there some other aspect of development that we concentrate on? How about bequests? How do we promote bequests?
Bequests or deferred giving is through our Office of Planned Giving.
It's a part of planned giving? Okay.
It is. And whether someone can give outright right now with cash or securities, they can also give deferred, whether it's through their estate plans or through life insurance, something like that.
Okay. Now, do you have, and we're talking about deferred, but as far as income, I started to ask about donors' concerns. On the planning side, which are our clients, but they're also donors. And we talk about the advisor helping the client fulfill or what have you, their legacy or their donative intent or what have you. And we see concerns of retirement income, and I mentioned capacity when we opened up. Am I going to outlive my money?
Right.
You know, longevity is we're living longer.
Right.
Perhaps we have a widow whose spouse died, and now she is, I should say he or she, concerned about outliving our nest egg and so on. More recently, in the last couple of years, we're concerned about long-term care and the added demand of monies maybe in the final years. Are your donors expressing that?
Some are, yes, from my experience.
Okay.
I do have limited experience within planned giving. However, that is a topic of conversation whenever a donor comes to the table. You know, what can I do to fulfill my passion and match it up with something that ONU is doing, but yet make sure that my family and myself are secure? And so working with financial advisors or maybe the director of planned giving, we can hopefully work to solve that problem and reassure them that there are ways that they can make a difference.
Now, part of the reason that I was interested in really grabbing a hold of Kelly and twisting her arm and being on the program is that we talk about different nonprofits. We talk about different areas, whether it's the arts or health, hospitals or museums or symphonies or what have you, human services. But when we get to universities, we know that a major part of giving every year, that $315 billion, that $200 billion plus are coming from individuals, and upwards of 80% of gifting comes from individuals. And only 1/3 of those are deducting. They itemize and they can take advantage of deductions and so on. So when it comes to universities, you have, and you mentioned 20,000, 30,000,
30,000, nearly 30,000.
We're going to reach Kent State someday. It's either 200 or 300.
They're about 200,000.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
But universities have a large constituency that mass mailing, and then you're reacting, I'm assuming in the development area, reacting to a response to that mailing.
Sure.
Okay, I'm interested, and there's an affinity group that is different from other areas. I may like the symphony, but it's a smaller affinity group, okay? I may have a member of my family have a good experience through the services of a hospital, and I have another affinity group there, and mailing might be the contact. But I'm assuming that, even though I have a bias for Northern, that Northern's efforts in fundraising in the different forms are similar to other universities.
Sure.
That mailing, you're using national firms. I'm assuming you're not printing all of your mailing and that kind of thing. But it's the size, it's the sheer size of the group, whether they're old turkeys like me or recent grads within the last 10 or 15 or 20 years who are successful, that have the capacity and so on. So I was interested in, because I'm looking at both sides, which is, I guess I'm a strange advisor on my side, because I'm trying over the years, Kelly, to bridge the gap, these two silos,
Sure.
the advisors and nonprofits, but they need to work together more.
They do, and there has to be an open line of communication, and really, first and foremost, be donor-centric. I mean, that's something that Ohio Northern really strives for, is making sure that we are donor-centered, that we can take those passions, as I stated earlier, of someone and match them up with programs or providing scholarship support to the students on campus. And whether it's through the annual fund, through direct mail, through phone, through web, through face-to-face, personal contact, we want to make sure that we're getting out there, sharing our story and our successes, keeping everyone informed, and engaging them, inviting them back to the campus. Now, whether it's philanthropy, whether it's time you're giving, your talent, or your treasure, we want to make sure that that line of communication is there and that we're doing our best to steward our donors and cultivate our alums to stay connected to the university.
You're sharing opportunities that may resonate or click with them
Sure.
to say, gee, I can do that.
Sure, and sometimes you might not know, what really to mention to the alums until you get to know them, until you get out there and see them.
The relationship.
You build that relationship, and that's one of the things that I do now in this role as a development officer, is that I travel across the country, mainly in Ohio, because we do have about 60% of our arts and sciences grads there, but I travel, meet with alumni, talk to them about their ONU story, reminisce with them.
There are some stories about
I'm sure there are, and I'm sure you could share some as well. But, just really advocate for the school and really learn about the successes that our alums have had as well.
Now, I mentioned bequests, and I won't hold you to the figure, but percentage-wise, if Northern or a university or what have you receives X dollars a year, what percentage, do you have any idea, come from bequests every year?
I believe, I can tell you out of our comprehensive campaign, about 40% came from deferred giving, from planned giving.
Now, that's planned giving?
Overall.
Okay.
Overall.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you a solid figure for each year.
And it's interesting you say 40%. We look at national organizations like the American Cancer Society, for example, and year in, year out, 40 to 44% come from bequests. Now, you're talking about a constituency, that gets very large when you're talking about a national organization like that.
It sure does.
But deferred annuities, did I ask that already? I have a brain lapse here.
I don't think so.
you have deferred annuities or charitable gift annuities?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
We have the options to do that. We can do bequests, like you had mentioned, life insurance. There's a number of choices that our donors have.
Now, when you
with.
mention life insurance, Kelly, is it changing the beneficiary of existing insurance or
It's
gifting ownership to the university?
ownership, yes.
Okay.
For example, I'm working with some alums right now who are going to be doing a life insurance deferred gift with us, where we are the owners and beneficiary of that policy,
Okay.
which is fantastic.
Is it a new policy or an existing policy?
This one is going to be an existing policy that I believe will be transferred over
Okay.
and changed to us.
It's a great opportunity for people to do that, because as we go through different life stages,
Right.
that policy that I bought 20 or 30 or 40 years ago to protect the mortgage or to protect the young kids or what have you, now they're out of the nest. Maybe they come back once in a while. But we kind of have this policy over here and say, do I really need it?
Right.
And it's an easy way to gift to an institution,
It
university
is.
or whatever, nonprofit.
It is.
Let me ask you about this, Kelly.
Okay.
And I know that you're in plan giving a short period of time, which is unfair, which is why I invited her, because I was going to be very, very tough with her. IRAs, here a few years ago, and we had this direct gift from an IRA, and then we went into a lapse of a year or two. Now we're back into gifting directly out of my IRA. And there are a lot of tax reasons for that. Or out of my RMD, if I'm over 70 and a half, I can have that RMD go to the institution. Are you finding that people are either knowledgeable about that, or do you have to bring that up to them as an idea?
Well, sometimes, typically, when I'm out with a donor, that's what they bring up to me. What can I do with my IRA? What can we do?
So they're initiating that.
A lot of times they are. We also, though, through our end, through our planned giving efforts, send out communication pieces via mail. Because policies are changing constantly, we want to make sure that our donors...
Testimonials in your mail?
Sure, yes.
Okay.
We want to make sure that our alums and our donors who are thinking about this know about the new policies or the regulations and can hear stories of other donors who have done this and how their gift is being put to work at Northern.
Yeah. We find that, Kelly, with this program, I try to share with our viewers that this is what your neighbor's doing, or this is what somebody else is doing. You can do the same thing. And either the testimonial, like we were saying in the mailer, but I'm always interested in who initiates the idea. Is it the development professional? Is it an advisor, an attorney, or an accountant that says, we want to talk about year-end tax planning, but we're all motivated by different things at different times by different people or whatever, but our cognitive experience, especially in this area, is lacking, I think. But we need to know more about the donor, like you say, donor-centric. But in our firm, we're known as a behavioral planning firm.
Okay.
So we kind of get into that and assume that everybody's philanthropic. We just have to show them how.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Now, volunteers. We talked about students. Do you have people out there that are alum that have coffee clutches or whatever, where they invite regionally? If you get outside of Ohio.
Yeah.
But seriously, I've found that there's a kindred spirit there that we'll invite John and Mary over, and Kelly introduced them to Kelly, and this is what we did. Do you find that?
We do. I have to say, Ohio Northern, our alumni are always great ambassadors for the university. They're always telling someone about it, or they're wearing their ONU t-shirt and someone approaches them in public, or their ONU ring, and someone says, Ada, Ohio, and it always blows my mind when people recognize that. But they always
Well,
spark up.
being a state school, you always are flabbergasted about these small liberals.
It does. It surprises me sometimes. But ONU is a gem, and I think our alums have so much gratitude towards the university for helping them through when they were young, when they were 18, 19, 20 years old, or giving them the strong foundation that has made them the successful professional that they are today. And so without even putting the term volunteer,
They step up.
they just do. They talk about Northern and they love the university. But we do. We have a very active DC chapter, Washington, DC chapter, that 2 of our members actually host a summer cookout for those students who are planning to attend, the incoming freshmen to Northern, for parents in the area of current students, and for alumni in the area. So we have quite a few groups across the country
fun.
that do things like
That's
that.
fun.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, that's why I just put that commercial in there, that we need to
I like it.
have more visitation on
See?
campus.
You just did your volunteering.
Now, part of disclosure, and I've got to say that my wife Norma attended Kent State. So anything that I said that may be, slanted that I don't like state schools in Ohio is not true. It's not true. For 85 years we've been married, and I love you. And Kent State is a great school, Norma. So I apologize. But okay, Kelly, you are a gem. You are a very brave woman, and be sure to say to Bill Who that we send our regards.
I will.
And anytime you're back in Connecticut, you give us a call, and we'd be glad to visit again.
Thank you.
Come back and see us sometime. And oh, by the way, as you're writing out that check, write that check out to Simsbury Community TV. I'm sure they would appreciate it. See you next time. Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.